listening to the Product Coalition podcast with Jay Stansel. This is where product mastery happens. This is where careers are made. Welcome to the Product Coalition podcast. Let's go.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Product Coalition podcast. First up for today's episode, I want to thank the Noise Nest Studios in West Hollywood, Los Angeles, the studio's capital of the world, for hosting me for recording this very special podcast episode with Rishab Jolly, who I'm so excited to have with me today. To give you a little bit more information, Rishab is a product leader at Microsoft who's guiding the strategy behind Application Insights, one of Azure's core observability platforms. It's a mission-critical product that I know firsthand supports everything from major e-commerce sites during Black Friday to global SaaS apps running at absolutely massive scale. Now, what's really compelling for me about Rishab's approach is how he leads, in a deeply technical space, but he considers himself not necessarily the most technical person in the room. He does this because he obsesses over customer outcomes, simplifying complex systems, and aligning cross-functional teams around some real impact. So in this conversation today, we're going to be exploring what it looks like to stay connected to your users when there's no, at times, obvious UI, how to build for reliability without losing sight of empathy, and how product influence works when you're managing infrastructure that spans the entire globe. Now, on top of all of that, Rishab brings a huge dose of thought leadership to the PM world. He's built a LinkedIn community of tens of thousands of followers and hosts the Curious Soul podcast, where he chats with leaders across the industry and about craft and mindset behind product work. So with that, Rishab, welcome to the show. Let's jump in.
Thank you so much, Jay. Thank you so much for having me, by the way. Super excited to be on your show. I've been following your podcast, and reading all the articles on Medium, and it's so great to be over here finally and share my thoughts. Thank you for giving the platform to come and talk about product management, about cloud observability, and things of that nature.
Okay, outcomes over outputs, Rishab, is the theme of today. Before we get stuck into some of that and some of the advice you've got up your sleeve here, why for you, Rishab, was this an important talking point for you to bring onto the show today?
Yeah, so I think one of the most important things that we anchor ourselves to, in the Azure Monitor world is we make sure that whatever product that we are shipping, feature we are shipping, we ask ourselves the question, right? Is this generating the outcome that the user is looking for? Are we just shipping a bright, shiny new dashboard? Or is it actually answering the question that the user is looking at for at the 2 a.m.? What is the root cause of a problem? Why is my application down? Just taking a step back for folks who don't know about observability, much very short 30-second intro. Imagine like you're a developer in a large e-commerce website like eBay or Amazon, and suddenly on Black Friday, your application goes down, right? For 30 minutes, if that application is down on Black Friday, that means a loss in revenue of millions of dollars, right? So as a developer, you are on the point to get the application up and running quickly again. Otherwise, you might even lose your job, right? So at that 2 a.m., how do you deliver the answer that developer is looking for? That's one, that's reactive. But how do you make sure that the developer never reaches to that point by helping them proactively, providing the observability? So those are the outcomes, right? Those are the business outcomes. What's the business outcome? The business outcome is the application should run reliably, right? So how do we deliver that outcome, which is just a shiny, new, flashy dashboard that may or may not solve their problems, but might look very funky and very beautiful?
Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Rishab. Let's move forward. And for the audience listening in, I do appreciate we've got some audio issues, but I'm keen to keep going to make the most of the opportunity here that we have with Rishab. Rishab, as I mentioned in the intro there, highly technical space like cloud observability. I can only imagine some of the differences, but maybe you could bring those differences to life between product management in that space and traditional, for instance, SaaS product management.
Absolutely. So I think, in general, at a very high level, 10,000 feet level, if you look at it, there are no differences, technically, because, at the end of the day, whether it's a technical product or a non-technical product, there's a value that the product is going to deliver. There's a product market fit, no matter what domain you are in. But when you dive into, nuances, and then you go to details, and there are some differences that you should keep in mind when you are trying to build, more technical products and trying to deliver value to users who are using that, right? I think one thing that comes top of my mind is that, you really, just like any other product, you really need to understand your customer. You really need to understand the developer SRE persona. What are they looking for? Like, what's their job that they need to do, right? Where do they live? What's their day-to-day, work process looks like, right? So, for example, if I'm building a product for them, I will not try to build a product outside of the ecosystem. I try to meet them where they are. What are the developers, they usually live in VS Code, IDEs, right? How can you deliver the magic where they are versus delivering or building an entirely different product which may not have any seamless integration, and they have to switch context without understanding what's the how do they integrate, basically. So you lose value when you try to do that. You lose value. So understanding your persona, what they are doing, why they want to get this done, meeting them where they are, is like one of the top things that you have to think about, right? Second is, I think you don't have to learn coding, but it's good to be able to understand their language, meaning, the challenges that they face, when they are generating a PR, they're shipping a code, the tools they're running. What's a day-to-day challenge, right? So this can be done by you conducting interviews, or attending Scrum meetings with developers, or attending the post-mortem incident resolution meetings, things of that nature, and you can sort of think about that. And I think last thing is, generally, as a non-technical product PM, you may not be exposed to things like latency, reliability, security, scalability. As a technical PM, these are very critical stuff, especially for the cloud organization. And at Microsoft, we pay extremely a high attention to security, to reliability, and scalability. So you start thinking about, will my product scale for a huge organization? Will it actually be able to handle the load? Will it be able to provide secure telemetry and things of that nature? So these are like top three things that comes to mind, but there may be more to it. But like I said, at the end of the day, they are a huge overlap between non-technical and technical products.
Now, Rishab, you mentioned knowing the personas there. I mean, how are you staying connected to your customers in a quarter? Let's say, you're in Q3 right now. How do you interact with your customers and learn from their needs and wants when you're in an environment that's a lot of the time doesn't even have a user interface? They're using terminal to interact with the product, for instance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the way I look at it is like there are two aspects to it. One is quantitative analysis and like qualitative analysis, right? Obviously, we have built a product for developers, so we have made sure that we have the right set of telemetry telling us like how are they using, even when they are using like CLI, ARM templates, and biceps non-UI stuff. We still get a lot of telemetry to understand, are they successful, are they failing, and that gives us an idea what went wrong. But the qualitative aspect comes into picture when we are like, okay, we know this onboarding that we launched will be a non-UI interface. It's not working. We see a lot of drop-offs happening, but we don't know why. So let's try to understand why. So we would try to understand who are those customers who are dropping off. We have customer programs. We regularly talk to our customers. We have identified some top customers that we have. Plus, we try to seek out. We have forums different that we try to reach out. Thankfully, Azure has like a lot of blogs and websites where customers can reach out to us. Plus, there is GitHub, Stack Overflow communities that we can reach out to and just pay attention to it. But most of all, I think you become lucky in the sense when you're working on technical products, because in-house you have your customers, meaning your developer team who is developing the stuff are also technical people. They should be dog fooding using your products, right? So you can firsthand not even have to ask other customers. You can firsthand talk to your own developers, asking them to use them in their own ecosystem and try to understand what are the pain points and challenges that they're facing before shipping it to the entire world, and trying to understand what went wrong. Because at least at Microsoft, we are lucky that we operate planetary scale, so we have large number of services, we have large number of ecosystem. So if you're able to solve a pain point through this product for our challenges, the chances are very high that we'll be able to do this for our customers who are running equally larger ecosystem, or maybe even a bit larger than us.
Nice. Rishab, when we're thinking about outcomes, often to embed that outcome-driven mindset, it needs to happen at a strategy level first and foremost, so that it then cascades down through the organization. Can I ask, what tactics and approaches do you have when it comes to crafting an outcome-driven strategy in this space?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think the way we try to understand or we try to do it is we take a step back, and try to understand that, hey, as a product Azure Monitor, where do we want to see ourselves in 4 years, 5 years, right? And that's a vision that we have. Where do we want to go 5 years, right? That's where we start from, right? That's the outcome we're looking at. What do we want to achieve in the next 5 years for our users, for our customers, right? And then when we take a step back, we try to understand or take signals from different areas, like from support tickets, from talking to customers, from the industry trends. Where is the industry trending towards? Is there a new compute like Kubernetes? Is there a new AI agents stuff coming into play? All these things are signals, and then looking at doing some lightweight compute analysis as well. So all these 4 or 5 areas are different signals that tells us, like, A, what the customer is asking for, plus B, where the industry is trending towards, because customers might not necessarily know what they want, right? Always. So this sort of gives a signal of what we want to do and what outcome, what we want to achieve. We want to be more AI driven, we want to be more compute heavy in certain aspect, right? And then we would build those big themes eventually that we want to achieve as a product, and try to rally all our teams to make sure that we are working together to achieve or working towards features that are aligned with those top level themes that we've identified and we have thought about, right? And making sure that if there is something that doesn't align with that top level theme or couple of themes that we think are the outcomes, that should not be part of the semester work or semester planning, right? So that's then that every feature, every PM in the org who's working on a certain feature knows that this is what we need to strive for. This is the outcome we need to strive for. And this feature, if it's helping achieve that outcome, great. If it's not, this needs to be scrapped. We need to be doing something else because we have the vision.
Nice. I love a good war story, Rishab. Like, how can you bring some of this to life for me and the audience? What's a story where those customer insights significantly shaped your roadmap or drove you to a big pivot?
Yeah, I think there have been a couple of instances like that in the past, but in general, not just with us, but I've seen for example, a new technology might come into picture, a new compute resource like a VM or Kubernetes might come into picture, where users are usually gravitating towards. So you would want to make sure that you are flexible enough to understand that if something comes up really quickly, really fast, you can pivot to a new strategy. Whether it's AI, like right now everybody's going gaga over AI agents. So how do you make sure that you keep some capacity, some flexibility in your strategy when every semester or a couple of semesters when you strive for it, that you have time or you have bandwidth to pivot to something new that comes up? Because in the world of technology, I think we have seen repeatedly over and over again, there will be something that comes up every few years, and if you're not fast enough to latch on to it, you will just become irrelevant soon. I think AI is one of these things these days. If you don't have something strong offering in the AI, you will soon become irrelevant. Everybody, or if you look around, from Amazon to New Relic, all the tools in observability are latching towards AI and providing some sort of observability features. So I think that's one of the examples for pivot. We're not seeing just in Microsoft per se, but in general, the entire industry, how quickly everybody pivoted from not having any AI-based strategy to quickly having a very AI-focused strategy in less than few months, right? If you ask somebody last year, this was not even existing in their strategy doc. Like if you look at other products or other cloud competitors, I don't think so they had anything of this sort. But everybody is now hell focused on this and have something around this area whenever you go to their conferences or look at their roadmap documents.
With that in mind, Rishab, many PMs are going to be afraid of this space that you're in right now. It's highly technical. They may feel that without having strong, significant engineering experience in this space, they're irrelevant when considering, moving into product management with high technical products and cloud native tooling. What advice would you have for that audience looking for roles like yours?
Yeah, I think one thing that has to be understood, and that has firsthand I've seen that usually it's extremely refreshing to have a person, a PM in the team of like developers and technical people who can bring some expertise from a non-technical world, right? Because think about this, right? If you have just one set of thinking in the entire organization in the group, then there's no opportunity to diversify. There's no opportunity to bring goodness from other areas into the technical field, right? For example, the other day I was looking at there's a new feature that Amazon AWS Cloud Observability released, which is you can sort of like see a timeline, Facebook timeline kind of a view of your investigation that you are doing, and you can dismiss stuff, you can add stuff, right? So you see that I'm imagining somebody who was non-technical proposed this idea that why do we have to build very extremely hard to understand dashboards? Why can't we have it like a Instagram timeline, Facebook timeline kind of an experience for a technical product as well? Because users are generally using that outside of their work in their personal lives, and if you can translate some of that into the work life as well, it becomes easy for them to understand, because at the end of the day they're looking for answers to the questions. Some of them might be technical, some of them might not be technical. So having a product PM from a non-technical background helps bringing that perspective, right? That's one. And then second, I think if you are curious and if you are willing to learn, it's not hard to learn the technical domain, especially with AI coming into picture. You can just vibe code. You don't have to write queries, or you don't have to write complex scripts by yourself. Everything is out there available on AI to help you to do that analysis, things of that nature. So I think as long as you have the passion and if you are curious to learn about it, it's not hard. It's just like you need to put in time, and you just think about and be empathetic towards the customers, and you'll be able to grasp that pretty soon. For me, I have a technical background, but for a few years I was like completely out of the technical picture. But when I came back, it was pretty easy for me to get into it, because I was able to just empathize with my customers. And I just want to understand what are the challenges, and when I immerse myself in that particular mindset, things just start coming into flow. So that's what I would say. But things have become super easy now versus what they were like 5-7 years ago.
Rishab, applying for a job at a place like Microsoft could be quite intimidating for many people. For those thinking of doing that but are a little bit insecure or afraid that actually that's too big a step, what words of encouragement would you have for them when it comes to applying and going for a job at a global entity like Microsoft?
I think I had the same fear. I had in fact, like in my first day or first week of my job, I had that imposter syndrome as well. So I think that's pretty common. But just like any other organization, Microsoft is also very open and accepting. It doesn't matter what your background is, what institution or what university you have graduated from. I know people who work in my team from like various universities all over the world or various backgrounds. So I think there is no, I'd say like a certain bar you have to meet to be applicable for a job at Microsoft. As long as you show curiosity and you show passion in your interview, and you're able to give like really structured, methodical, product thinking answers, you're able to clear the interview as well. And I think networking and understanding from a PM who who's already working at Microsoft will make things way more easier versus trying to just imagining that, hey, I don't know how it is to work at Microsoft. When you start talking to people who are actually working in it, you just understand that, hey, at the end of the day, it's just a product that you're trying to ship. The difference is Microsoft, whatever it ships, it is able to impact millions of people around the world, right? So which is very fulfilling as a PM, that you get a chance to work on products that's impacting millions of people around the world, around the globe. But I just say network and just try to have a curious mindset, and that's the way to get into Microsoft.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate some of the experience you've shared with the audience today, as well as day-to-day practicalities of how to create and focus on outcomes strategically as much as culturally within a product management team. So thank you so much, Rishab.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Thank you to the audience also listening to this episode. Apologies for some of the audio issues we've had through the show, but thank you for listening through all of the advice and wisdom Rishab's had to share today. If you'd like to learn more about Product Coalition, please head over to productcoalition.com. Thank you.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Product Coalition podcast, hosted by Jay Stansel. Got questions or want to explore more topics? Connect with Jay on LinkedIn or join the ever-growing Product Coalition community on Substack. Thanks for listening.